Somebody earlier linked a Theo Von clip. Is that the one where he was crying about Palestine? Yeah, then he ate with Jared Kushner. I think he ate with Jared Kushner before, but yeah. Theo Von is like decidedly right wing, right? So if anything, this just signals more and more like the extent to which the right wing is pulling away from Israel. Could be a red flag. I don't know. What are we doing? Heart emoji.
You know, I wanted to say something. There's been something that's just been kind of on my heart, and so I feel like I should bring it up. There is, you know, we've had people on the podcast in the past to talk about it. And there's a conflict that's been happening in the Middle East. People know about it. Between Israel and Palestine,
really?
And some of the areas over there, the Gaza area they talk about. And I just think it feels to me, I don't know if it feels to me like it's a genocide that's happening while we're alive here in front of our lives. And I don't, sometimes I feel like
it's actually crazy to me that people listen to this. He seems genuine. Are you 5 years old? The mainstream is finally turning, though. He's not the mainstream. He's a right-wing grifter. He makes his money by advancing and appealing to a very specific set of interests. Whatever whatever authenticity you might ascribe to him, let it be for his intelligence. He seems genuinely quite stupid, but even that probably to an extent is a grift. Much like with Joe Rogan, you know?
Should say something. I'm not a geologist or geographer or anything like that, you know, so I don't know a lot of some of it I do know, though. Like, I know the basics of the issues over there, but for me, it's just like how I feel like you see all these photos of
wait, how is this not sincere? He literally pals around with Trump administration officials. Here he is dining with Jared Kushner. Do you know what Jared Kushner does? Do you know where he's made his money? Do you know what he's advanced? Come on. It's the same thing. This is just the same. Do you think Theo knows that? Are you? I'm so. Whoa. I'm sorry. Hold on. He's an adult. He ties his own shoelaces, I assume. Are you suggesting that he's somehow achieved levels of political prominence that allows him to have private dinners with people like Jared Kushner, but he's just totally unaware of what's going on? Come on. He's a moron, though. No. You're doing the same thing that Joe Rogan people do, where you're like, listen here, he's stupid, which is why it's a coincidence and not at all suspect that he lies constantly in ways that advances a specific political position and pals around with dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have made it their life's mission to make the world a worse place and conveniently believes misinformation whenever it suits him. Come on, man. Stupid.
People, just children, women, people.
So what do you think he believes? I don't know. I haven't seen much of him. Seems to me like he just believes whatever he thinks will get him the most attention, basically. So now he's seeing that the Trump administration is turning on Israel, and he's like, oh, I can say this now. He's like Jackson Hickle, or whatever his name was. Just like he has like a core set of beliefs, mostly around him having money. And everything else kind of like arcs out from that. It's all these people are the same. Joe Rogan, right? Everyone was like, dude, Joe Rogan, he's not like right wing. He's just impressionable and believes the last thing he's told. And then in the span of 4 years, went from endorsing Bernie Sanders to these cringe rants where he talks about how like Elon's unleashing the epic autism on you, bro. Yeah, you don't even know. You listen to his shit now and he sounds like literally any pro-Trump, like all of the fake populist, like independent spirit's been burned out because he's just another asset. Past a point, like you see this happen enough times and you stop falling for it.
Body parts, just people like putting their kids back together. And I just can't believe that we're watching that and that more isn't said about it. And so I'm not saying anyone else needs to say anything, but I think I'm just that more isn't said about it by me. So I just, I want to be able to speak up about that I think we're watching probably like.
He can be swayed to the left, I think. How long have you been chatting in this chat? Let me check your log history. Okay, it's only been since December 2024. Maybe you haven't been around for as much. Just doing a quick audit to see like whether or not this is an acceptable level of gullibility. Look, once you see this happen enough times, you stop falling for it.
You know, one of the sickest things that's ever happened. And I'm sorry if I've kind of haven't said about it. I've tried to talk about it and learn about it. But I don't know. Maybe I just want to I just wanted to say something. I don't even know what to do. And it's crazy because our country's also complicit in it.
Did he just arrive at this conclusion? By the way, has he, I'm actually asking, has he said anything about this before? No, he's talked about this before. Okay. No, yes, no, yes. Okay, gotcha. He talked to Hassan about it? Well, like with what tone?
In it, and has been for a long time. And it's just kind of interesting because then you just realize, oh, well, I'm a member of this country, but what we want sometimes doesn't matter, and you just have to be.
So if it's not introspection, what is he doing this for? I don't know if you're familiar with this concept. I am professionally. My job as a person who makes content online is that I say things and people watch it. And when people watch the things that I say, sometimes they like it and they give me like money and I get views on my channel and stuff like that. That's how from a monetary perspective, that's how it works. And I imagine he's got something similar going on where when he says things, people watch him and he gets support for it. That's just my guess though. I'm not, I can't really say.
A member of a place and your government is making other choices. So I don't know if I said that correctly, or I don't even know exactly what I said, but I just have, it's just like been making me really sick. And I feel like I just needed to say something that I think you don't have to think that. I'm not asking you to do anything. But I just have to say that. So I'm not sitting by,
that's great.
There's that piece inside of me. Like, wow.
Man, he's boring. Yeah. That's also a thought I'm having. I'm not, I will never get this like particular brand of manosphere content. I just don't get where the interest is. I have no idea. He wants a Trump Bernie ticket? No, he says he wants a Trump Bernie ticket because that most aligns with the interests of his fan base. It allows him plausible deniability with his political views while appealing, broadly to people who are populist leaning, especially young men. It's a carefully calculated demographic appeal.
Why can't you say something? There's people that can't even speak and you can say something, and so that's how I just had to just speak up anyway. Yeah.
That was great. Genocide is bad, but like, you don't have to think that. It's okay if you think it's good. Gotcha. I'm very emotionally affected by this genocide, but like, that's just my opinion, man. That's what people who are affected by genocides typically say at the end of their bit. They engage in conciliatory statements where they're like, well, I was just talking, like, I understand like people have different views on this genocide that I'm upset about. It's very sincere. Definitely not a bet hedging kind of thing.
So just praying for those people and just the grief that is all going to cause.
I'm 34 and he looks sincere to me. I know you think that, Coffee, because you watch him. There's no other reason why you would type like 20 times in chat defending him. It's fine. I don't really care. I'm just like sick of this personally. I exist in a media environment where it seems like basically nobody actually believes in anything, and it's exhausting for me as a guy who has beliefs in things. Sorry, I apologize for being the guy who's like, why am I the only one who's real around here? But unfortunately, like, especially at in the big leagues, like it's exhausting because I can't even respond to stuff they say with any sincerity. It's just like you have to wave your arms and go like da-da-da. I don't know what Theo Von actually believes. I know that he's willing to platform, embolden, and pal around with people on the far right to his own benefit. Whether or not he internally believes the stuff they believe is kind of meaningless to me, really. Dude, having a dinner with Jared Kushner? Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea what level of evil this is on? This is not attending like a larger political event and you shake hands and take a picture with a guy who turns out to be like a higher up in the RNC or something. Kushner's a billionaire. This is like a very entrenched whatever. No, it's just an accident, man. He's just dumb and like got a dinner with Jared Kushner and one of Trump's relatives. It's fine. It doesn't mean anything. Damn, if only he'd brought up the genocide to them. That would have been nice. That's how I fell into conservative propaganda years ago. They're pretty good at seeming genuine morons who just question things around them. Yeah, literally, it's the just asking questions thing where like your positions are so idiotic that you don't want to front them directly. Instead, you just disingenuously float them as like an option amidst many. You give them undue credence and you kind of like play the field a little bit on what you actually believe. Oh, I'm undecided. Oh, da-da-da. But like we know what actually brings the money in. I'll tell you, the broader market, the industry for the right wing funneling money into their grifters and pundits is at the very least hundreds of millions of dollars. The Democrats don't do that like at all. Or they do it a little bit, but they do it with much less money. And they do it to like the worst grifters, right? Jared and Ivanka just like Theo's podcast and invite him for dinner. Theo doesn't know who Kushner is. Coffee, I'm sorry. That's like, maybe you think he's as stupid as you, but I'm sorry to say that he's not. Come on. Like that's crazy. I can't see it anymore. Not for today. Take a day off. I can't. It's too sad. I'm going to tear up. That shit's crazy. Don't the Democrats usually raise more money than Republicans? Yep, and they do not spend it on internet personalities, grifters, or assets. I promise you that. They spend it on TV ads that go nowhere and do nothing. It takes so much less money. You can burn $1 million on a TV ad no one cares about, or you can invest it in like a content creator that'll then go on to reach 100 times as many people as the TV ad ever could over a longer duration. Just the Republicans are just much better at politics than Democrats. Like, why would you get people like, I don't know, Harry Sissel or people who just like already appeal to nerdy little liberal policy wonks, when instead you can financially support people like Theo Von, who sway the most idiotic motherfucking people in society. Like, if your political views are being influenced by content you watch on Theo Von, you're already in like a subnormal IQ bracket. I'm sorry. Like, you, rather than getting boomers with TV ads or whatever, you can get like the most impressionable, the most low IQ, the most like, I will believe literally anything thrown my way guys possible. And Democrats just haven't wisened up to this, you know? That's how it is. One of my totally politically disengaged friends is really into Theo Von, bums me out. I don't understand what the appeal is. I genuinely don't. Like, that was, and I am pro-Palestinian, that was the most boring 3-minute speech I have ever seen. Like, that was so, it was toothless, it was uninteresting. Guys, he doesn't have any political affiliations. Also, here he is joining Donald Trump on his trip to the Middle East, his historic trip to the Middle East, to do stand-up at a U.S. airbase. Listen, okay, he didn't know. He didn't know. He got on the wrong flight. He had no idea where he was. I peeked in YouTube chat to see, like, because I know what the people there are going to be like, and a lot of them are falling for it. They're like, well, listen, okay, I know that by any standards, overwhelmingly, it seems like he's a political asset, but he's actually just really dumb, and that's why all of these things keep happening over and over. And I'm sorry, but, like, you're making his perceived stupidity your excuse to be stupid, and it's crazy. Just, again, like, I'm sorry, I've been around the block more than you have. It's fine if you like watching his content. I think it's kind of dumb, but I guess I just don't understand why people default to doing the like precious small little bean cinnamon roll bullshit with super wealthy and influential people. Like, Joe Rogan is he's literally one of the most prominent, wealthy, influential, and powerful media figures in human history. You know that, right? Like, in terms of the reach that he commands, his power is unbelievable. But people still act like he doesn't have a team of consultants and advisors. Like, do you think any of the decisions being made by people like Theo Von or Joe Rogan aren't being vetted by an army of people around them? Like, do you think they're just like basement YouTubers? He's meeting with Kushner. You think he's just like a guy? He's just like, these are the people who think that like Mr. Beast acts of his own volition and isn't just like the front and prime beneficiary of a larger set of financial and social interests, which in the case of people like Joe Rogan and Theo Von align with the right. Do you have advisors? I have friends who tell me when my jokes land off base on stream. Does that count? Okay, I know that what you asked was a joke, but I will say, and this is true, there are genuinely people who think that what I am and what I do is like what Joe Rogan and Theo Von do, and that's parasociality at its core. They're like, well, I watch these guys on YouTube, right? I watch them on YouTube and they say things to a camera. So like fundamentally, it's basically the same, not realizing that like I am a sole proprietor and my studio is a room in my house right next to my bedroom. And these guys are like world trotting, meeting with political leaders, like huge businesses, investments, but because they consume, and that is the power of what this medium allows for, right? The perceived authenticity. You can be the most powerful, influential voice in the world, but if you're just like a guy in front of a camera, it's like, oh yeah, he's just like me, you know? And maybe he is, or maybe he's not. Unironically, I think that's one of the reasons why Asmongold is so popular, despite being, you know, him. It's because Asmongold is a rare intersection of extremely popular, but also he's pretty authentic, at least in the sense of like he is just a guy in a room, right? I think a lot of people crave that. They think, yeah, they think he's real. And the reason why, by the way, they like the fact that he's like a disgusting rat cockroach man or something. Because why would that be happening if he wasn't real? Like that's, if anything, it's an indication of the extent to which his life is, you know, he's not like a corporate front or something. You get what I mean? So I think that a lot of people, they look for that authenticity, but then they project it onto people who really don't deserve it. Like they're like, yeah, man, Theo Vaughn here speaking alongside Trump during a historic Middle Eastern visit to at an air base in a foreign country, along with a giant diplomatic visit, also meeting with Jared Kushner, etc. No, you don't understand. He's just like a guy with a microphone. And it's like, no, he's a corporate and political entity, and don't be fooled by the stupidity. The stupidity might be authentic, but stupid people have had a lot of power in the past and still do today. Anyway, sorry. Over making my point here over a relatively small amount of content, but you know, it's fine. Hassan literally had a post about communism while showing off a $15,000 Gucci bag. Okay. Are you under the impression that and this is what I mean about the parasocial defense. Are you under the impression that I'm arguing that it's bad for powerful media figures to have money? Hassan is a powerful media figure. What does that have to do with what I'm talking about? You reflexively, you go to any defense, you know, it might not be black and white. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about whether or not people are an asset. I don't really have an issue with people who have a lot of power having money, I guess. Like, isn't that how you get the money, I guess? Like, if you're Mr. Beast, I don't really care that Mr. Beast has a lot of money. He runs a very successful channel. What would you expect him to make, $50,000 a year? I mean, that just kind of like follows, right? I don't really have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is disingenuously pretending to be an on the fence, like a fence sitting idiot, when in reality you have very powerful financial and political ties that see you as an asset. Or do you think Jared Kushner liking Theo Vaughn is just like a coincidence? You think Jared Kushner, a billionaire, like real estate guy, a very powerful political figure, is sitting in his room just watching Theo Vaughn clips? Are you stupid? He does that with all of his favorite YouTubers, you know? Jared Kushner also was having meetings with like his favorite Roblox channel, and he really, really likes this one engineering channel, so he had this like 400K subscriber YouTuber on. Come on, idiot. Yeah, no, he just has dinner with like people he likes. That's what powerful people do. Yeah, people did the same thing with Tim Pool as well. They were like, listen, he's just really impressionable and an idiot. And then, whoa, turns out he's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars a month directly from Russia. And that's just one of his financial connections that we know about. We know he has more than that. Have the wealthy in the past tried to match the aesthetic of the common man like this in the past? Yeah, but not like this. This current trend of extremely wealthy, powerful people with lots of connections pretending to be just like idiot laymen, this is a very recent thing. In a way, it's kind of populist, but it's inauthentic. It's like we desperately want to appear not as what we are, which is very powerful and connected people, you know? And I don't like that because I don't like that inauthenticity. And it's almost always used to benefit a right-wing agenda because there's so much more money flowing around on that side of things, you know? Like Hassan definitely makes money from streaming, but I guarantee you he's not getting anything near equivalent to hundreds of thousands of dollars from Russia. Like Finland is not kicking, or Norway isn't kicking their social democracy fund towards him. Keep spreading left-leaning propaganda, you know, yes, illegal foreign asset financing, laundering the money. It's not equivalent. Now, if it later turns out that he is doing that, that would surprise me. Oh, so that's just a you thing? Hey, don't come after my foreign financial connections, okay? I actually have a $5 Chinese yuan note in my wallet because a friend of mine visited China and brought me back them. Said, you know, Chinese century, invest early. I'm holding on to it. Of course, that means that since I don't have any US cash in my wallet, when I'm walking around downtown and I get accosted by homeless people asking for my money every like 5 minutes, I will always forget. And then I'll look at my wallet, see a bill poking out, open it up and go like, oh, right. And then I'll say like, I don't have any money, even though there's clearly a bill in my wallet. This is 5 Chinese yuan, fine. So I gotta, I gotta put some cash in there. Just give them the yuan. No, it's mine. You get where I'm coming from, right? Like, I just don't think people understand the scale of the inauthenticity on the right. Like, there are grifters everywhere, but the scale, the difference in magnitude on either side, it's incomparable, you know, and the biggest way they've always done it is by like pretending to be fence sitters. Watch any recent Joe Rogan episode where he talks to a right-leaning guest and tell me if you can't recognize a tone difference from the last time you watched him, which was 6 years ago. Okay, feel free. Theo Von is just farther back on that spectrum, or like on that pipeline. You know what I mean? Maybe he'll never actually reach the final point. Maybe he'll kind of like do the fence sitting thing forever, which might end up being better business in the long run. I don't really know. It's probably a case by case thing.
Rather than say, what do you say?
I remember this conversation with Pete Buttigieg. He's the one guy who said he would Kendrick Lamar, and he said he likes Republicans because they're cool. Okay, gotcha.
Stand for?
Exactly.
You're gay, that's fine. Who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you stand for?
Yeah.
You know, is every gay person brilliant and wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics, in the sense of which side are you on? Are you going to...
It was the guy saying he used to be a Democrat till he found out Republicans are more. I think that's like statistically extremely the opposite of true. Maybe right-wing young men online think Republicans are more because they consume a lot of like spinny Sonengrad VHS tape filter memes that make them think that. I don't really think that gels with the data though.
Stand with working families? Are you going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage or not? Are you going to fight to guarantee health care to all people or not? Are you going to...
He said Trump was getting pussy left and right. His perspective on what it means to be a player seems really screwed. Well, not to reignite the discourse, but it's not his perspective on what it means to be a player. It's what disingenuous line he can use to appeal to the young right wing to like get support, right? So he personally has no opinion probably on Trump getting pussy. Like it's not factoring in for him, okay? But it's a line you can use to try to sell the impression to impressionable, young, insecure, incel-esque right-wing men that the being pro-Trump will somehow mean you can grab them by the pussy or whatever, you know?
Demand that the wealthiest people start paying their fair share of taxes or not. Those are the issues, and no one cares what.
If you think he's a right-winger, you are wrong. Didn't he literally say he's right-wing? Isn't that the clip I'm referring to? Where he says he found out, like, the right wing was cooler or more, so he went with that? Didn't he literally... Am I misremembering the bit? He's a centrist? Oh my god, dude. Why are you all the same? It's the same thing over and over and over again. I can never escape it, dude. Whoa, you're telling me that this comedian centrist who just happens to constantly espouse right-wing bullshit, but also plays the field to try to attract the populist audience of young men who are very impressionable and therefore a loyal audience. You're telling me that there's it's not that he's right-wing, it's just he didn't know what he was saying. Okay, yeah. Okay. We're not even watching the thing. Jesus, man, you're still gonna be falling for this shit 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now?
What color you are, you know, what your gender is, etc., etc.
I'm sorry, I do feel like
the right wing figured this out a long time ago, okay? Nobody's buying the Ben Shapiro bullshit anymore. It's not 2016. Go look at Ben Shapiro's views. They're down. They might even be lower than mine at this point, despite him having hundreds of millions of dollars of Daily Wire money behind him, okay? That no one's up on that like debate, bro. I'm gonna watch Steven Crowder. He epically owns the libs bullshit anymore. Now they want to watch like fashionable New York West Village sociopaths with $20,000 outfits talk about how like they don't really care about politics, man, but like if getting pussy's the game, yeah, you know it. It's the Trump train you're on or whatever. Like it's the podcast bro era. Like follow along.
Allowing to stop taking super PAC money is a great first step, but also being an honest politician. You put up a bill to stop the sale of weapons to Israel, and there's no amount of money AIPAC can spend to not get you reelected. And I feel if we had more honest politicians, then
You're describing yourself? I couldn't afford to live in the West Village.
Courageous ones.
Yeah.
You're raised. This is a very this is a good discussion.
Why are you shocked?
I'm shocked because I do a lot of media stuff. Right. You're asking questions that are not often asked.
This episode has been promoted by Walter O'Malley's Foundation.
Well, you look the part. I'm not skinny enough to live in the West Village also. The people there are beautiful because they're all like trust fund finance sociopaths. If being LGBT makes you a right-winger, then fine. It does, actually. Lol, only people with subnormal IQ watch Theo Von. What a f***ing narc. No wonder people don't vote for the Dems. Opposition Biden Harris, he's a comedian. If you think he's a right-winger, you're wrong. He's a centrist. You don't even know or watch the guy. If you know better, sure. If being pro-LGBT makes you a right-winger, then fine. You guys got... you gotta buy a sub in my website before you can start talking like this, okay? I just want to live. I'm still going to be doing this bit in like 10 years, you know that? Well, assuming I'm not like in a death camp or dead or something. I mean, like this dynamic where it's like, oh, listen, he's not right-wing, he's centrist. Also ignore all this other shit. I don't care, man. You know what? Maybe he's enough of a grifter that when the wokeness pendulum swings back the other way, this guy's going to be like, actually, I was on your side the entire time and everything will be right with the world. Maybe. Also, I like his, I don't know, cardigan, whatever the f this is.
All right. It's a painful issue. I mean, because I deal with it every day in Washington. You're running for office. If you, in your heart, understand what's going on in Gaza right now, and again, it's almost painful to talk about it. The United States is complicit in the starvation of children as we speak right this moment. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mass malnutrition, etc. And you say, that's wrong, man. And I'm not going to give Netanyahu another nickel, but I know that the day I say that, AIPAC is going to pour a huge amount of money. So what's the choice you have? The choice you have is, okay, they're going to throw a lot of money at me, but I'm going to make this a major campaign issue.
Ooh.
I ain't going to run away from it.
Yeah.
What do we stand for as a nation? And I'll tell you something, getting back to the Democratic Party. What the Democratic establishment...
I think too much intent is being ascribed. I think it's crazy that modern social media and parasociality has made millions of people think, nah, there's no way that these powerful political figures would lie for millions of dollars. They wouldn't do that. It's just like a convenient set of coincidences that things keep turning out the way they are. Like that, unironically, that is the magic of live streaming, of podcasting, of this entire format. That at any prior point in human history, people would have been like, oh, the duchy? Oh, you're telling me that the Duke is lying? Obviously. He wants our horn. What else would he do? Oh, you're telling me that the factory owner is lying when he says there have been no factory worker injuries? Of course he's lying. Nobody believes that shit. But nowadays, it's like, oh, no, hold on. This like guy who's worth $123 million or whatever, not him, but Joe Rogan, I guess, is the person I'm thinking of here. Like, no, it's just that he's an idiot who conveniently keeps tripping into these financially lucrative, obviously contradictory statements, you know, that don't reflect anything ideologically, but rather are just a reflection of the complexity within our soul. People wouldn't lie for money. People lie for nothing. People lie when they're not making money. Have you been on social media? People will lie for the fun, for the love of the game. When did it like? Oh, that's yeah. People will lie for nothing, but nobody would lie for lots of money and power. Jesus. You know what you all need to do? You all need to come to Brazil. Okay? You need to have more distrust in your media.
People say, well, Gaza, yeah, it's an issue out there, but it's not the main issue. It's not the pocketbook issues, more important. Healthcare is more important. But you know what? I'll tell you this is my own view, is what people have a sense, consciously and unconsciously, if you are turning your back on starving children in Gaza, why the hell am I going to trust you on anything?
It's a great point.
Is that a fair point?
I think it's a very fair point. I think if you turn your back on starvation in general, especially if you're complicit in it, I think that's where a lot of, at least voters feel like there is some sort of separation. And if you make them realize that there isn't, right? I
said you're ascribing too much intent by acting like literally everything they say is some kind of Machiavellian pre-thought thing. I'm not, though. It's really not like a crazy accusation to say like you're lying and playing the field at all. That doesn't mean you're like a genius where like every statement is being calculated or whatever. Now ask this idiot about his views in deporting child immigrants. Yeah, exactly. It's not, you're not like ascribing a Machiavellian level of intent and intelligence to a person by saying that they lie for money. It's actually like quite common. My guess looking through the comment section is that it's going to be a lot of like not endorsing Bernie Sanders' views, but praising the podcast for having him on and suggesting that they have sort of a shared interest or like he's the one good one. But it will definitely not be anything that criticizes the right. Vosh looks like a right-wing comment section, huh? It does actually, yeah, because I'm not stupid and I've been doing this for a while. Yeah, actually. You can tell by contrasting it with a left-wing comment section. Why are you so defensive about people who don't know or care about you? Bernie's the right's token socialist that they will accept to appear more reasonable themselves. Yeah, that's true. He does do that. I learned it from you. Yeah, you guys can do that for me. Just don't do it for other people. None of these comments seen that right-wing so far. Okay, you're still not understanding. It's not about the comments being right-wing. The purpose of platforms like this is to disingenuously equate a wide range of politics to play the field and get a lot of people, usually young, politically uninterested, disaffected men, to be interested in your content. The way you do that is not by doing a Steven Crowder, this is an all right-wing thing, oorah, oorah. Look at what happened with Joe Rogan. Look at what happened with Tim Pool before they both just explicitly went to the right wing, okay? You are amenable to people like Bernie Sanders. You are populist. You are wide-ranging in your appeal, you know? But you're never really critical of the right, or at least not that critical. And you're willing to talk to some evil people without criticizing them. Bible expert. Centrism is literally one of the oldest tricks in the book. Yeah, I can't believe that we're still doing the like disingenuous centrist appealing to right-wingers bit, you know? I mean, we saw bits of the Pete Buttigieg interview. I thought the parts we listened to that were fine. It's not about being explicitly right-wing. He had Eric Adams on. Oh shit. Why does this have so few views? This is a great get. Mostly just seems to be people happy that they got him on the podcast. So you can't be a centrist if you hold some left-wing beliefs and right-wing beliefs. Who are you then? If you hold right-wing beliefs, you are right-wing. What you're engaging in the false equivalency that I'm describing. If you are like in favor of some people getting food and some race, like if you're in favor of some races of food getting, oh my God, if you're in favor of some races of people getting food and some races of people not getting food, you're pro-starvation. Your political beliefs don't aggregate or average to like the center point of good and bad beliefs. You are your worst beliefs. Why is that surprising? We treat people like that all the time. If you're normal 90% of the time, but 10% you're like a murderer, no one's like, well, most of the time he's not murdering. That's literally how like morals work. You're the weakest link in the chain. Like, yeah, it's the joke, right? You build 1,000 bridges, nobody calls you bridge builder Bob, you one goat. Like this is, you know, these Nazi officials were fine 99.9% of the time, right? The administrative duties that they worked over were mostly like basic construction stuff. It was only the construction of Auschwitz-Birkenau that was problematic. Like, yeah, that's how it works. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance to this, right? Like, not all views are equally charted or easily charted onto a political spectrum, right? Like there's a lot of things with nuance, for example, like like housing policy. Like there's a lot of really complicated and engaged ways you can like banter about that. But we're talking about powerful, influential people with the ability to, you know, sway a lot of people. I think it's okay to be skeptical about the stuff they believe. In truth, it's not really about whether a person is in aggregate right-wing or left-wing, because that's sort of like a really reductive description. It's kind of like, it doesn't really like give you much information. It's more about like what the overall direction is. And this guy like explicitly said what his direction is. So I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. I'm starting my distrust of media with you, Vosh. Good. That's good. You should do that. I'm not like praising like an uneven application of skepticism. The skepticism that I'm applying here should be like a tool that you apply universally. Can you watch just a little of the Eric Adams one? I jumped to 4252 and it made your case so clear. What point is being reaffirmed?
Which is, so it's like you either hate immigrants or they're staying at the Four Seasons. Right. But I think that was the thing that New Yorkers started to give pushback, which is like New Yorkers obviously struggling. Cost of living has gone up. Like you were saying, housing prices are crazy. And then you're hearing these stories about these people that are migrating to New York, right? And they're getting put up at the hotel outside of Madison Square Garden, getting 3 meals a day. You're like, yo, my kid's getting 2 meals a day.
Right.
Like, so you understand their concern and resentment.
Without a doubt.
And you're in this situation where you're like, okay, the federal government is not helping me with this situation at all. And I'm shackled by my limitations as a city to even put these people to work or do anything. So now essentially the federal government, through law, is making me put them up and feed them at the potential disadvantage to my own constituents, and then you just got to sit there and take it.
What you
No, yeah, what I think is interesting, and thank you, Left Frog, for pointing it out, is that he's not actually taking a position. What he's doing is saying, well, I can understand how New Yorkers would be upset by what they perceive to be an inequity where the federal government is assisting these literal refugees and asylum seekers by housing them in hotels, but they're not helping me with like my New York housing prices. So do you see here like a legitimization of a position without an explicit normative statement? This is the stuff that I tend to listen for, because you'll notice that when I talk about stuff I believe in, I make extremely strong normative statements all the time. All the time. Whenever I'm talking about a thing I believe in, I don't say stuff like, I can see how the Palestinian people would be upset that they're being bombed. I say, Israel's doing a genocide. I make my statements. But this is a way of, again, hedging your bets, because I bet you the aggregate position of this podcast is broadly anti-immigration, but you don't want to alienate the people who are, you know, okay with migrants resettling into the United States. So you frame it in a way where it's like, okay, I can see how the New Yorkers might feel that way, which, by the way, to an extent I can, but the point underlying it is still incorrect. There is no relationship there. NYC housing prices don't really have anything to do with the resettlement of migrants within the United States. Those are separate issues. Like, I can understand a person's frustration if they don't know anything about the issue, but then they're wrong. And then they should be, like, pushed back against on that. I don't know. You get me, right? I know I've talked about this a lot today. It's just like, it's literally like the monster these days. It's the strategy that they use. It's the beast. It's the nature of the game. Sargon was basically the pioneer of this shit. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say he's the pioneer, but yeah, no, for sure. I've seen it happen so many times. Like, it's literally the main way they make content. I should note, by the way, it doesn't necessarily mean the people producing that content are like super duper far right. It means exactly what it sounds like. They're playing the field. They're willing to moderate their language in a way that casts a broad net. But unfortunately, if the broad net that you catch, or that you cast, ends up like including and normalizing right-wing positions, I think that's bad. And usually there's more money in going in that direction anyway. They're business people doing politics in a way. All people doing politics are business people doing politics. Very few. The only people who are doing it with no monetary incentive are activists, and God bless them. I pay my rent with this. I think you can synthesize those two, but if you're ever divorcing monetary interest from political analysis, you are way off base. That being said, I have known a good number of activists who work like really hard for basically no personal benefit. They're strong people.